Just a quick warning that some of the animations that will be shown in clips of this presentation will contain some disturbing imagery, violence, and possibly blood. You may continue to listen to the presentation, but please watch with caution. Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Kat, and today I'll be talking about indie animation and the rising evolution of fan-made series. And yes, I'm using Gansha because unfortunately I ran out of time to make proper PNG drawings of me, and I'm very over the top. Okay, so first things first, what is indie animation? You've probably heard of the word indie animation as of late, especially if you're an animation fan. Nonetheless, I shall explain to you what indie animation is and such other creations. Indie animation, by definition, is short for independent animation. What this means is that animated projects that are created outside of mainstream companies, such as Disney, Pixar, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, etc. The term indie is most commonly used in the music industry, as it's more common for music artists who make and release singles or albums without the help of a major record label. For example, Billie Eilish started out as an indie singer on SoundCloud before making it big in the music industry. And speaking of starting off as indie, by definition, did you know that Walt Disney Studios technically started off as an indie animation studio before becoming the exemplary standard of mainstream studios that we know of today? Crazy, right? Just something to think about. Now, despite a lot of animation being so similar, what separates mainstream animations from independent ones? Well, it's the fact that indie animations are completely free from corporate influences. They don't have to face the pressures or fears and expectations of their creations to meet up standards in order to get produced. They are also free to have quote-unquote wokeness in their animations, or in other words, have more proper representation in media, such as disabilities, the LGBTQ+, and people of color. Indie animations are also free to be as heavy and graphic as they want to be, since there's usually heavy censorship on broadcasting TV. Overall, indie animations will never have to face censorship of such corporations in order to be televised or broadcasted, and don't have to worry about their stories and productions getting cancelled over small things. People tend to often underestimate indie animations compared to mainstream corporate ones, despite the fact that it's been proven many times otherwise to be as equal and if not even better than corporate studios. The way indie animation projects go from small to big is always so fascinating to me. Like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared going from a small YouTube project to a full set and production being broadcasted on TV. Then there's Bee and Puppycat going from YouTube to Netflix. And Has Been Hotel, although I haven't been the biggest fan of as recent, going from YouTube and going on Amazon Prime. Then you have The Amazing Digital Circus having Glitch Studios make a deal with Netflix. The progression and evolution of indie animation is huge, and one can only hope it can continue on from there. With such increase in new original projects, there's other types of content out there that also gain quite the attention. Fan animations. When it comes to indie animations, or animation as a whole, it's such a broad medium and spectrum of creations. Not only is there a spectrum of different styles of animation, such as puppet, stop motion, 2D frame by frame, rigging, 3D, or a combination of all of them, but there's also different subgenres within animation, and it's most explored in indie animation. The first examples of what I'm talking about are meme animations and social media trends. Whether it's fan content or original ones, these usually tend to be the most common type of indie animations. They usually tend to be 10 seconds to 2 minutes long with many different aspect ratios on the internet, and there's usually more edits or texts involved. These usually don't hold a consistent storyline that would be considered a running series, but there are a few out there that do this. However, jumping into the more prolonged series of indie animation, next you have the Gansha community, and although it may have a damaged reputation due to its controversial beginnings being filled with children exploring inappropriate things, many kids and even adults have proven over time how much this dress-up chibi Gansha game can be used as not only to create skits and make animations, but even a combination of both, as Gansha has evolved over time, being used in rigging animations and even just as a base for artists to go off from there and create series. Over the years, Gansha has become more accepted within the art and animation community, being seen as less than some dress-up game and more as a medium of art. And while you may think of indie animations as more of original stories, fan content is seemingly more popular at times on the internet due to the fact that it already has a built-in community, unlike original works that are just starting off. The thing with fan series, however, is that despite being so much of it on the internet, with how huge a fan base can grow, compared to actual animated series, there's not much to show. Fan series tend to come more commonly in the form of comics or comic dubs, which makes sense considering how much faster it is to draw some comic panels and have a channel freely dub it for you, rather than animate, voice act, and edit an entire series. For animation, the second most common form to tell a story is through a series of music videos that have enough content from the chosen song and visuals of the animation for an audience to piece together the story on their own. Nonetheless, you still have quite a handful of fully fledged fan animated series on the internet, some a bit more unserious than others. Despite that, you have series ranging from ones where you have a whole community band together to create a fan project, to more simple productions of one person or a handful of a small team. But I digress. That one-person production are far from simple. You see, as much as I love animation and the vast wonders of indie animation and fan series, I could possibly go on all day talking about them. But there's one series in particular that I really want to talk about today. A fan animated series made for the Undertale community. Oh my god, no, we are not even going to dare mention that one. I'm talking about Underverse. Now, in case you haven't noticed, we are 7 minutes into the video, and unfortunately, in order to talk about the Underverse animation, I had to cut out an entire section where I go in depth about Undertale and Toby Fox. However, I did manage to find and put 2 links in the description of this video. It should be the top links for you to easily find, where it goes in depth talking about Undertale and the fandoms of the multiverse. And then the second video talks about Gaster, which should be a 2-minute video. You can watch both of them on your free time. Okay, so Undertale, the emotional RPG indie game with an amazing soundtrack and heartfelt, deeply developed characters, came out in September 15 of 2015, created by Toby Fox and Temmie Chang. So Undertale is an RPG game where you play as a protagonist called Frisk, a child who fell in the underground going up Mount Ebott. Down in the underground lives a race of monsters who were trapped centuries ago and are stuck behind a magical barrier. Undertale is filled with so many lovable characters, such as Toriel, caretaker of the ruins, the most popular skeleton brothers Sans and Papyrus, Undyne, the heroic royal guard, Alphys, the royal scientist, and King Asgore. You also have Flowey the Flower and many more. Now, Undertale isn't your typical RPG. The game tries to encourage you a lot to spare monsters in the underground, have mercy, and to not gain any XP or level up. If you do so, you'll be rewarded with a very warm, happy ending with all your new friends free on the surface. However, what happens when you complete the no mercy route? When you kill everyone. What happens in that route took the internet by surprise. That lazy skeleton I just told you about that jokes and takes naps all day, turns out he knows way more than he lets on. He's almost as aware as Flowey is when it comes to the game mechanics. Note, what makes Undertale so special is that the game mechanics were also carefully crafted and put together. When you reset the game, it remembers what you did. And now, before I move on, let me quickly talk about why Sans Undertale is such a fan favorite, and how he made a huge impact on the fandom. He's supposedly the weakest character, yet he is one of the top 3 hardest bosses to defeat in the game. It's probably because he's using a lot of cheating through manipulating the game mechanics against you, jumping through time and space, dodging all your attacks, attacking your menus during your turn, using karmatic retribution to drain your HP, keeping his attacks up, and manipulating the fight box. No other character has been able to do this, therefore he's seen as extremely powerful. Now, considering all this, it's no surprise that Sans became a fan favorite. Not only does he have a nonchalant, funny side to him, but he has a deeper character within him. He's actually depressed and nihilistic about the situation. He knows that he can't really kill you because you'll come back to life or reload, and that whatever he does has no worth because you can just all reset it in the end. There tends to be a lack of mental health representation in media, and because of this, that's why people became attached to Sans so much. They relate to his depression a lot, and the other characters as well, as he is not the only one who struggles with mental health in Undertale. Now, because of this character and the whole concept of timelines and such, it's no surprise that alternate universes came to be. Now, you might think that alternate universe might be a fandom thing, but recently they've entered mainstream media, such as the MCU or the Spider-Verse. Now, when it comes to the complexity of Undertale AUs, I believe there's a simple way to understand it. Just imagine Sans is Spider-Man, or vice versa. Just imagine all the spider people in the Spider-Verse are skeletons. Got it? Good? Okay, I'm assuming you've watched the Spider-Verse considering how popular it is because it's animation. Now I can finally talk about Underverse. But before that, let's talk about the creator. Now, I once again had to cut a great portion of my script off when talking about the bibliography of Yael Peñalosa. Yael Peñalosa, also known as Jakey, is an artist/animator born in Colombia on October 10th of 1995. Her YouTube channel was created on May 7th of 2009. Now, scrolling through her oldest videos, it's clear that she's been an animator since the beginning. One day, on November 5th of 2015, she posted a second speed art on her channel, which would be the first appearance on YouTube of her original work, Miradora. I will get back to this later. Then finally, on March 22 of 2016, only 6 months after the Undertale release, Underverse pilot was posted, which contained a 20-second video of Sans AUs, which looks like they're in an anime opening. She also has multiple Tumblr blogs, a DeviantArt, and a Patreon, where she gets all her support for her series there. Of course, I have to cut off all the information I found out through my research of her Tumblr blogs and DeviantArts. But basically, I found all the concept art for where Exhale and all the Underverse characters started being developed. I also found works of her original story, Miradora, such as her pilot and concept arts and old artworks. Now, finally, we can talk about Underverse. Underverse is an animated Undertale fan series created by an artist and animator, Jakey. She sometimes has a co-writer, Korn Mayer, and her main music composer and audio designer, Nix Toshio, which just so happens to be her husband. Nix's full name is Felipe Montero, who was born in Chile on April 7th. They met back when she was friends with She Who Shall Not Be Named, and making music for the poorly written and plagiarized Undertale animated series, where eventually Nix also decided to help in Jakey's series as well. A while later, they got together, and now they've been married for 5 years so far. Okay, back to Underverse. The Underverse series starts off with Sans being awoken, standing in an empty white void. He seems unfazed by this. As he continues to walk, he runs into this fusion of Cross Sans and Excara. They steal half of his soul, reason being that they just encountered an Error Sans prior to this and had their soul stolen from them. Without a soul, they will die shortly. From the looks of it, it seems like Cross Sans is the antagonist of the series, but as the series goes on, we come to learn that he was simply just misunderstood. Soon after Sans gets half of his soul taken, Ink Sans comes in to the rescue, but unfortunately Cross and Excara got away. Ink and Classic have a talk, and Sam seems fine with the fact that half of his soul is gone now, but he was caught red-handed by Frisk, and after that Sans decides to tag along with Ink to hunt down Cross across the multiverse, to get his soul back. From the start of the series, and even in the pilot, you can see the quality of animation is pretty decent considering it was all done by one person alone. The animation quality seemed pretty consistent throughout episodes 0 to 3. Jakey had this animation style going on where she would do the line art very thick and quick ink brush strokes, and they would always be moving every 2 frames, especially on characters who would stay still so it looks like they're constantly moving. It reminds me of animatics. Along with some frame-by-frame animation, she also seems to use a lot of keyframe animation as well. As an animator myself, I can see why she used this method, as it is quicker and easier to get the animation movements done. Sure, it's not high-quality anime studio production, but considering it's a one-person job here, she did what she had to, and she did a pretty good job at it. Based on her speed animation videos she's uploaded, she makes a lot of layers for the keyframe puppet movements. Along with that, she makes one simple sketch and animates from there rather than making an animatic or storyboard as a guide. Nonetheless, the effort put into it is still inspiring, with episode lengths going from 20 to 30 minutes. Her shadings on the characters are really well done as well. I can say she does a good job with the lighting and special effects as well, from bright blasts to the glitches, and even blur effects added on there. Not to mention, she puts a lot of effort to put details in the background, and a lot of cool shortening and perspectives. When it comes to animating Error Sans, she uses lineless artwork to really closely resemble the original artwork he's from, and uses a lot of rigging animation on him compared to anyone else in the series. Behind the scenes, you can see all the smear frames and squashes and stretch she adds to further make him more alive. She does a great job in this distinct stylization, really setting him apart, which honestly fits his character, considering he's a huge man-child always seeking for attention, and has quite the ego. Lastly, she has a great choice in color palettes for all the characters, especially her AU Exhale with having purples and whites, to really set it as an alternate universe separate from others. The Underverse series has no voice acting, so Jakey relies on sound effects of text, similar to the speaking speech of Undertale characters, taking actual samples from the games and changing the pitches to fit each character and distinguish them apart. The only episode where there's voice acting in it is in the extra scene 2, where Error Sans is watching his favorite AU under novella. Yes, there is an AU where the Undertale characters are in a Hispanic dramatic soap opera. However, Jakey's animation quality doesn't stop there. As years go by, it's obvious that one's art style will change with improvement. One example I can think of from the first hand is the creator of My Hero Academia, Horikoshi. His art style went from sharp, stylistic line art to more realism over time. Underverse 3 Part 2 had some increase in animation quality compared to past episodes, but it's an Underverse Season 1 finale where we really get to see the change in animation and art style she went through from 2016 to 2018. The change can be seen gradual over the course of Season 1, but if you compare side by side Episode 4 and Episode 0, you can see a clear difference and increase in animation and art style. Her line work is more thinner now, and her art style has increased, being more detailed and accurate anatomy. There's also an increase in her perspective, backgrounds, and even special effects. Fans were ecstatic with her work before, and when this episode dropped, the Undertale community was taken by the utmost surprise. Fans couldn't wait for more, and more they got. Just a few months later, Undertale dropped. With a total of 10 episodes, with the series of Undertale, we get an origin story of what happened that led to all of the events of Underverse Season 1. The Undertale series was done much faster, with all episodes being around 2 to 8 minutes long, with the exception of 2 episodes of Undyne and Papyrus being at 14 minutes. And then there's Episode 10, Cross's episode, with 32 minutes. Fun fact about Episode X, Jakey adapted her own comic/manga of Undertale, but she did it in a different perspective. You see, the comic's perspective is in Cross's point of view, while in the animated series, it's in the main antagonist's point of view, Gaster, who's obsessed with perfection and control, spiraling into madness. The details in art style and animation in Undertale really outshines Underverse Season 1, and once again, all her skills have been increased in every area that I've already covered before. And the fact that she did it all on her own is astounding. Absolutely no other animator or artist for help. All on her own. Now, for Underverse Season 2. So far, the series is still ongoing, starting from 2020 all the way to now, 2025. The last episode dropped about 5 months ago, and I gotta say, if you thought the animation quality was insane, just hold on to your hats, folks, because it's going to get even better. Do you know why the Undertale community calls this series their anime? I mean, it doesn't just have 1, but 2 original openings, and it just looks so cool. It looks like an actual studio is producing this, and it's all still made by this one same person. I mean, just look at these fight scenes in the second episode/episode 0.6. Compare that to episode 0.2. Same person, same series, drastic different quality. The only difference in animation quality I see is that she's using more smooth frame-by-frame animations and less keyframe animation and rigging. She's put an insane more amount of effort in special effects, even adding impact frames, more details. Her line art is even finer than before in insane perspectives and backgrounds. Not to mention the shading and lighting. She's going full on out now. You can see the passion in each frame, not to mention Nick's always killing it with the soundtrack and sound effects. The series still has no voice acting, yet fans are blown away from the character storytelling and animation, not to mention the characterizations of the original characters. You see, Season 2 is all about the multiverse now interfering with the original universe. And wrapping up the story, the climax of the series. You see, the Undertale fandom suffers a lot from its characters being mischaracterized obnoxiously, so fans having this really cool media where the characters are at their fullest potential is a nice change of pace. On the Underverse Tumblr blog, here's what the top host says. She's taking a 1-year break from the production of Underverse. She's faced a lot of emotional and mental burnout from this project throughout the years, and with the amount of effort she puts into each episode, and with so many episodes in just a few years, it's really no surprise. She says she'll come back to continue working on the show in 1 year in 2026, and will continue to work on commissions as her source of income. She also stated that she'll take this opportunity to work on her original series, Metadora. You see, during my research, I had one question on my mind. What came first, Metadora or Undertale? And did one inspire the other, or do they bounce off each other? Well, here's what I found out. Although there's her speed paint that came out in November 2015, they seem more focused on Underverse and Undertale rather than her Metadora series. And specifically on September of 2018, she made an animated short where a character named Cross is in it. Sound familiar? After my research, I came to a conclusion that she simply got inspired by herself when it comes to Undertale and Metadora. It's also clear that Underverse and Undertale were inspired by Undertale, and in overall her entire art style and artworks are inspired by anime. In 2022, she made a post explaining how a lot has happened since she made the Metadora pilot, ever since she's been working non-stop on her Underverse series, and due to being overworked in the pandemic, she's been unable to work on her Metadora series, like not being able to make scripts and send it to voice actors. She also lost a lot of work during her production of Underverse 0.6. However, she still holds hope and determination for her original series to prosper, saying how she'll be focusing on making shorts while she finishes the Underverse series on her own. and will properly pay an animating and voice acting team one day. It's honestly all very inspiring, and I was moved by this post. One of many reasons why I idolize and look up to her and Toby Fox a lot. I'm looking forward to seeing her original series prosper. With the certain rise of indie animations, I'm sure it'll find a place right in the animation community. Okay, but she's taking a break from Underverse. But that means she hasn't given up yet. She really cares about this fan project, and I can see how she doesn't want to turn away from it or grow to dislike the project. Taking care of yourself is very important for an artist, especially when it comes to passion projects. It would hurt more seeing the candlelight burn out. So she's trying hard to persevere that spark inside her. Honestly, I have huge respects for her. She's done a great service to the community, more than you can ever imagine. Thank you, Jakey. Rest well on your break, and we cannot wait to see you come back and see how farther you'll go more with your skills. Wow, okay, that was a lot. I think I overdid it. My bad. Well, anyways, what are your thoughts on Underverse? Do you believe there should be more fan indie projects like these? Or should artists continue focusing on more original works? Let me know. Anyways, thank you so much for listening and watching. Have a good day and take care.